Gabrielle, you are live now. You can start.
Okay, thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here today. So first of all, I'm going to introduce myself, and then I will present what is pen test and give example of web pen testing. So I am Gabrielle Botbol, and I work as a pen tester at OKIOK in Canada. And I am also a blogger and a podcaster. I am the leader of WOSEC Paris and co-organizer of Women of Security Montreal. I was recently honored for my career and contribution to the cybersecurity community by being named one of the top 20 women in cybersecurity in Canada. You can follow me on Twitter and have a look at my blog. So to realize my project of becoming a pen tester, I relied on an educational science concept by Philippe Carré, which is called Apprenance. And my project involved 6 steps, such as e-learning, CTF, learning expeditions, internship, conferences, and volunteering. So in order to document my approach, I created a blog to share my experience, and I also built an analysis grid of skills resulting from the whole project. And I achieved my goal by being hired as a pen tester at OKIOK, but my desire to learn remains as strong as ever. So what is a hacker? So if you look up the definition of a hacker, unless you go to specialized websites, the general definition is pejorative. Like you will find terms, for example, like snoop, and there will be the notion of illegality. But basically, a hacker is someone who hijacks the use of a tool to do something else. And so someone who is curious about how a system works. And so as you might know, there are different types of hackers, white hat, gray hat, and black hat, but we are going to talk about white hat hackers who are also known as ethical hacker. So what is pentest? Pentest is when you attempt to break into a system to check its safety, and it aims to find vulnerabilities so that they can be patched. And there are different types of pen tests, so I'm going to present some of them. So we have external pen tests. We are going to try to break into the target system from the outside of the network. So there are different methods for doing that. For example, we can try to find out if an administration interface of the target company system is available from online. So for example, the employees of company Y must use an application to take their holidays, but if the login page of this application is available on the internet, it could be hacked, and this will expose sensitive data. So we will try to connect to this application, and this will give us a first access in the client's network. So there's also vulnerability assessment. So this is when we use an automatic scanner to scan our customer IP address, and then we will analyze the finding and see if they are indeed vulnerable or if it's a false positive. Then we have internal pen test. It's when we attempt to break into a system from within the customer's network. So once at the customer's location, you connect with an Ethernet cable and you try to become a network administrator. And an administrator has all the access on the system. It is like someone managed to steal the personal data of all the people working in a company. Then there is Wi-Fi. So for Wi-Fi test, we are going to check Wi-Fi security. Is it easy to connect? We check the Wi-Fi password. Is it strong enough? Technology dues, are they reliable? And indeed, some technologies are depreciated because they were found to be vulnerable. So a secure Wi-Fi will avoid that a criminal can look legitimate in a network like any other person connected in a network. Then we have social engineering phishing attack. So some companies offer phishing campaigns and will do what an attacker would do and will be able to find out how many people read the email and how many clicked on the link. And this is what will help us to propose the company to make a better awareness policy. There's also physical intrusion. So we are going to try to break into a building. We can either make scenarios to try to manipulate people to let us in, or break in at night, for example. So we have objectives to achieve. And so if you want an example, I made an article on my blog, which is called Codename 2300. And it's about one experience I had of a physical pen test. So for denial of service test, the different attacks can lead to a denial of service. The denial of service happens when too many people try to access an application at the same time and the application becomes unavailable. So we will test them to evaluate the resistance of the system to denial of service attack. Then we have red team. For red team, the objective will be mainly to check the ability of a company to detect attacks rather than focusing on finding a lot of vulnerabilities. And also we can test applications. So for example, web applications. So we are trying to access sensitive data to become an administrator. So we are going to use the most common black hat attacks. So for example, we can try SQL injection, which is an attack that allows to get information from the database. So the database contains all the information needed to run an application, but I will explain this more precisely later. So now that we've seen the different type of pen test, I'm going to explain the steps of a pen test. So there are different phases in a pen test. When we test, we do not go straight to the attack phase. We need to plan it with the customer, define the scope, and take care of the legal matters. So this is the planning phase. This is the first one here. We need to also gather information about the target. So how does it work? What are the used technologies? And this is the discovery phase. After we attack it, take many notes in the process and gather proof. This is the attack phase. And finally, we produce a report with explanations on how to reproduce the flow and how to correct it. So to go deeper in what Pentest is, I can share with you what my typical day as a pen tester look like. So You will first like open your mailbox, send an email to the customer whose system you are going to test for the day, because it's important that they are aware of that you are going to be in their system, so that they don't so that they know what's happening and they are not surprised if something is visible, which is rarely the case. It is important to be careful with emails and read them at specific hours, because you obviously get a lot of those. Sometimes you have calls to prepare new projects. Once every 2 weeks, at my company, we have a meeting with the team to talk about our projects and how to be more efficient in our work. And most of the time, you test or you write reports. So needless to say that you learn something new every day, because every day you see different technologies. And also, I wanted to make a list of things I like and things I don't like, but there are not really things that I do not like. So I'm just going to point on things that I particularly like, which are learning from my peers and getting to discover new technologies and try things. I just love hacking. So if you're interested in Pentest and wish to know which skills are necessary, I'm going to present some of them. So as I said earlier, you have to be curious. You need to question everything. You need to be creative. You have to be persistent. If something does not work, you have to try something else, and you have to not lose hope and try more and more. You also have to be very organized, and you need to love learning and sharing. So share your knowledge with people, ask them about what they are good at, and you gain a lot by communicating with others. I have learned so much by working with others, like be open to new things, observe how people work. This helps a lot to make improvement in your own work. Sometimes that was really helpful when I was looking for an opportunity as a pen tester is my blog. This is a real portfolio of who I am and what I do and know. So it's really helpful for employers because they love to see this, and a blog is just perfect for this. So it is not easy. You have to make your little inside voice shut down and let yourself just be yourself. So this will set you free to make a blog that look like you. So a blog is not mandatory, of course. You can, for instance, write articles on LinkedIn about things you do or things you like. You can share CTF write-ups on Medium, for instance. You can explain a concept you're passionate about. It can take many different forms. What is good also is to go in the wild, meet people from the community like you are doing here at this conference. You can get involved in the community, go to conferences, talk to speakers, create an association with your friends, and so on. There are many ways to get into cybersecurity. So now we are going to dive into practice with the example of web pen testing. So as you know, web pen testing is a type of pen test, and most of businesses have a website. Even people have websites as well. So those websites can be a nest of vulnerabilities. So in order to keep people safe, you can help them by testing their website. And in this example, I'm going to explain some web vulnerabilities, present some tools, and talk about what I have seen in real context. So, as you probably know, OWASP is a non-profit foundation that aims to improve the security of web applications. And they have a top 10 of the most found vulnerabilities that you can see right here on the screen. We will talk later in details about the first one specifically, which is SQL injection. and directory traversal, and the seventh one. And I chose to demonstrate those because they are very visual. So for the demo, I used Mutilide that I installed with Metasploitable 2. You can also install Mutilide alone on a web server if you prefer, but this is a vulnerable application, so you have to be careful with this. Also, before I show you the demo, it is very important that you are aware that you must always have the authorization of the owner of the website to test the system, otherwise it's illegal. And the machines that are used in the demo are made for this purpose, so please remember this. So what will you see in the demo? So we will see cross-site scripting. This is an injection of a malicious code that will allow, for example, to retrieve an administrator's session cookie. So injection points are the input allowing the user to enter information. SQL injection is an injection of SQL code that can be used, among other things, to extract information from the database or to bypass an authentication page. And directory traversal is when you access the file of a system, including files that an unprivileged user is not supposed to see. And for the tools, I'm going to present proxy tools and such as OWASP ZAP and Burp Suite. On the demo, I will use Burp Suite. And the main objective of this tool is to intercept and analyze or modify queries. OWASP ZAP is open source and Burp Suite is proprietary. There's a free community version and a paid pro version. And as we navigate through the target, the proxies will detect potentially vulnerable elements, and we will be able to analyze them and validate if they are indeed vulnerable. Also, fuzzers. So it's a tool that we use to send a series of payloads or to brute force administration pages. And this can be done with also Burp Intruder, but we can also use a tool that I will show in the demo, which is Derb. With Burp Intruder, you can try different cross-site scripting payload on an ejection point, for example. We can also try to brute force an authentication form. And with Derb, you can list the directories of the website with a predefined list of words. So this is the demo. So the first one is stored cross-site scripting. So this is Mutilide, and this is the vulnerable web application I mentioned earlier. And they have a page here with an input you can write in, and this input is reflected to you as I just saw with the comment here. So you can like just enter anything. We are going to go straight into it and enter a payload. And there we go. We see here our cross-site scripting. This is an alert we triggered by using the JavaScript code that will pop up an alert and with something inside of it, like start XSS written here. Okay, and so if we go down a little, we see that our payload has been injected here, but we can't see it because it's JavaScript code, sorry. And it's been interpreted by the server. So if we go to the page source, we can see here that it's written just like if it were the developer who wrote it and that it was the purpose of the application, which is not, obviously. Okay, so now I'm going to explain SQL injection. So for the demo, we are going to try to bypass an authentication form. So this is the payload we use a lot, this one. I'm just going to copy paste this here, but you can basically put anything in the password field because these two dashes here, they will just comment the rest of the query. And there you go. As you can see, we are admin and we just bypassed authentication and we are logged in. Now I can show you directory traversal. So here we have a parameter that will take the page it's supposed to look for, but we are going to try to go and to access to files from the server we should not be able to see. So this file is called /etc/passwd, which is not a password, so to speak. This is just a list of the users on the web server. And we have it. And this really is useful because we get information on the target. So now I'm going to dive into the tools. So I'm going to show you Burp Suite. So what we can do with Burp Suite is intercept a request that we make. Like, for example, if I click on the home page here, I can see it goes to the home page. I have like the cookie that I can see and the PHP session ID and everything. So we can like modify things in it, try to inject something somewhere. And this is what is really cool with Burp Suite. This is a very high level view of Burp Suite because you can do many, many different things with it. And then you can choose to forward or to keep it here. So also now we are going to see derp. So I'm going to use it on my target. And this is going to list the directory and page that we actually have here. So as you can see, we have the PHP admin page, which is visible for us when it shouldn't be. And all the code 200 here are things that we are able to see. This was the index page we were before. And this is, as I told you just before. This is PHP MyAdmin, which helps to make settings in the applications and the database. And also what I really would recommend is to explore Kali Linux, because there are plenty of tools that we use in Kali Linux for pen testing. So I really, if you want to learn more about Pentest, you should try out tools you have there, and this is really helpful to learn more about Pentest. Okay, so this is it for the demo, but you might wonder about what I saw in real context. So I have seen a lot of cross-site scripting. Like once I had to test this website that was globally very well implemented, but there was this feature of file upload in which it was designed to be able to download HTML files. So I just had to build an empty HTML file, and I added the exercise payload I just showed you in the video demo earlier, and that was it. I have seen some SQL injection. For example, once the tool we usually use to dump the database was not able to find the injection point, so I could not dump the database automatically. So we found an SQL function that could show the last request made to the database, and this was a Boolean-based SQL injection, so we had to check every char one by one to find the request. So we made the script that ran all night, and we got part of the request, but it was 1,000 chars long, but it was a lot of fun to do. So I'm going to also present to you some resources. So these are the resources about the vulnerabilities we talked about earlier. So cross-site scripting, SQL injection, and directory traversal. And this is all from the official documentation of OWASP. Also, when one wants to learn pen test, it is very important to practice. So you can find a lot of very interesting resources, either directly online or by creating a lab to practice. So I also made an article on how to get started with pen testing that can be useful for you if you want to dive into pen testing. And that's it for my presentation. I will be happy to answer questions if you have any.
Thanks, Gabrielle, for a very informative presentation. So we do have question for you. Just let me read it for you. So the question is, as a beginner, I want to ask you about what is the best resource self-learning to start the pen test career?
The best resource that I've seen so far are CTF platform like TryHackMe, for instance. This is a very good website, and you have different levels of difficulty. So you can start from the easy, very easy. If you are very, very new to pen testing, it's okay. They will explain to you everything. And also after, when you are comfortable enough with TryHackMe, you can definitely go to Hack the Box, where you will learn even more. But it's on TryHackMe, you will have steps by steps and everything. On Hack the Box, you will be on your own, so you will have to find out things, and it takes some time, but it's very interesting, and you definitely will learn a lot, from web vulnerabilities to internal pen test and privilege escalations and many different interesting, very, very interesting things.
Okay. So the second question is, do I need to install VMware to learn about Pentest?
You don't need specifically VMware. You can also use VirtualBox. Uh, I think it's something you need to have, yes. But on the article I shared earlier from my blog on how to get started on pet testing, I explain how to install a virtual machine and everything. So you can have a look if you're not very comfortable with this.
Great, great. So I don't see any more question, but as you already shared your Twitter and LinkedIn account, our audience will reach out to you if they have more questions.
Perfect.
Thanks again for awesome presentation today and joining with
Thanks.
2020.